When I was about 9 or 10 years old, one of these friends came and told me a little story that he heard from his uncle, the truck driver. And he said as follows. The one time there was this truck driver that was going down the highway. He's tired, he's hungry. He stops off at a rest area and he orders a plate of spaghetti. If you go in Italy and say spaghetti, they won't know what you're talking about. You have to say spaghetti. And he orders also a brioche, a Danish. He orders a coffee and he sits down. He's tired. All of a sudden, these three thugs that came on their Harley Davidsons, they park outside the rest area. They come charging in and they see this poor truck driver sitting there on the side. He wants to eat his spaghetti or his Danish. So the first guy goes over and he grabs away his spaghetti and he says, I think I'll have it. The truck guy looks up and he wanted to do something, but so three thugs. The second guy says, I see you have such a good Danish. I think I'll have the Danish. And he pulls away the Danish. The third guy says, well, I'm only left with a coffee. And he takes away the coffee. This poor truck driver is sitting there. He's looking. And he gets up. He goes to the cashier and he says, how much do I owe you? And the cashier tells him, he pays. And he leaves. And meanwhile, these three thugs are sitting there and bragging about what's called their ma'asim tovim, their good deeds. And they're saying, this guy is not a man. We just took everything away from him and he didn't say boo, nothing. And they're bragging and bragging. Finally, they turn to the cashier and they ask him, do you think that this guy's a man? The cashier says, nah, no way, that guy is no man at all. And he says, but I want you guys to know that not only he's not a good man, he's also not a good driver. Because I saw that when he went out, he got into his truck and he drove over 3 Harley Davidsons. He flattened them down to the floor and went out on the highway. I also laughed like that when I heard it. It sounded very cute. I came home and I told my father the story. And my father says, you see, this is what you call class. He says, this truck driver, he answered them back with class. He says, he didn't fight back. Fighting back wouldn't help. He says, but he gave these guys a lesson that they're going to remember for the rest of their life not to start up with a truck driver. And my father said, listen, you're going to go through the same thing in life. You're going to hit a lot of challenges. Remember, hit those challenges, but with class. Hasidim, Lubavitchers, Chabad, we have many challenges. But the toughest challenge that we were hit with was 20 years ago. And the fact that we are here in the room today is the best proof that we handled it with class. 20 years ago, all those prophets out there, they said, if Gimel Tammuz comes around, Gimel Tammuz is the date that you see up there, then I don't even want to say what they said, what's going to happen to Chabad, what's going to happen to Lubavitch, what's going to happen to the world of Judaism. No, this is what they all predicted. The difference is that a human, his hindsight is 20/20. The Rebbe, his foresight was always 20/20. And as you saw before, this is something that everyone finally, after 20 years, they realized that the Rebbe's foresight was 20/20. And the Rebbe foresaw everything which is going to happen. And therefore, all we need to do is to take it with class. In other words, God placed man, humans, here on earth to take planet Earth, and this is the key, take planet Earth, develop it, that this planet Earth becomes God's home. Now that's a tough job. This is wrong. A person is not measured by how much he learns. How is a person measured? How do you measure a person? And here is the novelty of the Baal Shem Tov. As the Rebbe explained it to us, a person is measured because inside he has a neshama. He has a soul. And the Baal Shem Tov said as follows: the world is like a puzzle. A puzzle has a lot of pieces. So, every piece belongs in a certain place. If you take the piece that has the nicest picture on it and you put it in the wrong place, it's not going to work. The same way God created a world which is perfect. Sometimes, we ask, should the world have been only Harvard professors? Would it be a nice world that the whole world would be Harvard professors? You don't want to know what's going to happen. That's why God made that there's tailors and there's plumbers and there's also Harvard professors. Everybody has his place. The big scholars in Vilna and the other places didn't like it. You know why? They really meant it seriously. Those days there was no internet. There were no newspapers going back and forth. They only heard that the Baal Shem Tov said that the plumber and the scholar are both on the same level. They didn't hear the whole story of the neshama, because that's something that the Talmud doesn't discuss. So, let us say that Baal Shem Tov would have stopped at that. We could have still lived. The problem is that Baal Shem Tov went further, and the Baal Shem Tov said that what happens if one day the plumber, instead of learning 2 hours, he learns 2 hours and a quarter. The scholar, instead of learning 10 hours, he learns 9.5 hours. What happens now? Are they still equal? The scholar was supposed to learn 10 hours and he learned 9.5. The plumber was supposed to learn 2 and he learned 2.25. Now, who's the righteous and who's the wicked? Now, here's where the problem is. And this is what the Baal Shem Tov said. A person is not measured like a book by its cover. No, you don't judge a book by its cover. You look what's inside. Every single person possesses a neshama. It makes no difference what they do. They are a jewel. There was this guy, and he came with his friend, his wife, and she's not Jewish, but we open doors for everybody. And it seemed like that after I finished my speech, she asked him, what is this tefillin that this guy was talking about? So he said, the men, they put on this thing, and she asked him, do you have a pair? This non-Jewish lady, Allison, do you have a pair? He says, yeah, I have one from my grandfather. He says, so why didn't you put it on? She is told, why didn't you put it on? And he was stuck. And she started saying, what kind of business is this? Why don't you put on tefillin? And things were starting to get hot. And she tells him, tomorrow morning you come to the synagogue to put on tefillin. The non-Jewish lady. So I came, and this was going on. And I said, I'll make a compromise. You don't have to come tomorrow, come the next day. Because tomorrow is Rosh Hashanah, we don't put on tefillin. Now they really got mixed up. But that's a separate story. And I told Allison, and the words that I told Allison, I'd like to tell all of you. And that is, Allison, now you fell in the best trap in the world. Now you became a chassid of the Rebbe. The Rebbe is not looking for followers. The Rebbe is looking for leaders. Anyone who comes in contact with the Rebbe, don't follow the Rebbe. He's not interested. He doesn't need any followers. Become a leader. And I told Allison, now you did it. You became a leader. You got someone else to do a good act. And this is the message of the Rebbe. The message of the Rebbe, this is the greatest generation. The message of the Rebbe is that we are now after the year 5600 and we're headed for the best time ever. We just have to do a little bit more to finish this development of this planet Earth. And we're there. And we're going to go to Jerusalem, the Shana Haba Yerushalayim, every single Shabbat, every single Rosh Chodesh. And this is what the Rebbe is asking. That we should take the world, transform it in a timeless manner. It's not in the fashion to talk about mezuzah. It's more in the fashion to talk about what's the latest app you got. The Rebbe took us back 3,500 years and he's sending us forward. He says, when God created the world, this is what he had in mind. And therefore, you didn't come here tonight to have a good time. You didn't come here to have a nice speech. You came, you fell into a trap. From tonight, we're going to do exactly what Rabbi Levi Garelik asked us. If you put on tefillin once a year, wow, you could turn into a leader. Because I'm sure you have a friend who doesn't do that. If you put on tefillin once a month, for sure you'll have friends who didn't do it at least once a month. If you light Shabbos candles, you don't know anything else. All you know is how to light a Shabbos candle. You are a leader. You have to become a leader. And get another person to do that once. Trust me. When I ask someone to put on tefillin, or if you ask someone to put on tefillin, who's going to get there faster? The people, they do it faster with their friend. Of course they trust the rabbi also. But for the rabbi to get, till you get to the people, takes a while. And this is what we are going to learn from the Rebbe. Let's all become leaders. As Rabbi Levi said, this coming Shabbos, you're going to have an extra person at your Shabbos table. This coming Shabbos, you're going to get another person to light at least one candle. The men are going to get everyone to get at least once to put on tefillin. You do it once, eventually the other one is going to come. And then we're going to be able to say that the Rebbe is really the one who has the timeless leadership, that it never stops. Because L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, we're going to be in Jerusalem tonight.